Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church, Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist. I am Larry Ross, a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you've arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. I especially want to welcome our guests and newcomers. If you are a visitor this morning, there's a special note for you at the back of the order of service, guests and newcomers. As we continue with reopening, I want to mention a few things to keep in mind. We are masking inside on Sunday mornings as a way of striving to be an inclusive community. After the service, we invite you to gather in two different areas. The courtyard, which is mask optional for a fellowship, and the area behind the Jones building, which includes the porch, the grassy area, and playground is a space where masking is mandatory. We are not currently passing the offering baskets, so if you want to make a donation, you can place your donation in the offering baskets as you enter or exit the sanctuary. If you're writing a check, please put inch on the memo line. Our virtual coffee hour today will be at 11:30, and it's hosted by Rachel Rose. Our minister is Reverend Tom Bullock, but this morning we have a guest preacher this morning, Patty Hanneman. And I'd like to remind you to please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. I'd like to introduce you to Marian Hirsch, who has some words to say about the Inch Leadership Program.
Good morning. I'm Marian Hirsch, and I am your Director of Religious Education. Happy to see you, and happy to see Reverend Patty in our pulpit today. Today's Share the Plate offering will go to benefit an important youth program, the Sarah Elizabeth Inch Leadership Program. The Inch Leadership Program was established to honor the memory of Sarah Inch, who was a beloved leader in this church, a lifelong Unitarian Universalist who was deeply devoted to the spiritual development of children and youth. In the Inch Leadership Program, youth serve on a church ministry team or committee and receive mentoring and guidance to help them develop as church leaders. For example, many of you have seen Inch leaders serving as worship associates on Sunday mornings. As a part of the program, the Inch leaders receive scholarships to participate in leadership development opportunities in the Unitarian Universalist Association, such as attending the General Assembly, the College of Social Justice, or the Summer Seminary. Your donation will help provide these opportunities for our next class of Inch leaders. Thank you very much for your generosity.
Thank you, Marian. Our opening hymn this morning is When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Would you please join me? I'm sorry? Yeah, it's number 1008 in your teal hymnal. So if you would like to rise in body or in spirit for this hymn. Thank you. The call to worship this morning are words by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Let astonishment be possible. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry, for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart. To be surprised, make room in your soul. For a new story to take shape, let astonishment be possible. At this life that remains a miracle, imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence. And still this dreaming together, being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. The chalice lighting words in your hymnal 447. Please join me by Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
These words and music are by Tom Prasada Rao. These words and music are by Tom Prasada Rao. To the unnamed person at an anti-social networking protest in Nashville, holding a sign that said, "Sacrifice the weak, reopen Tennessee." I started writing, horrified and indignant, but that quickly turned to sadness. I wondered who you'd have to be to hold up a sign like that. What must you be going through? I remembered signs I have hoisted over the years, and I resolved to give you the benefit of the doubt.
To the woman at the rally in Nashville last weekend holding the sign, "Sacrifice the Weak," this is for you. I hope this finds you.
You hold up your protest sign. It feels like the end of time. It's looking tough tonight in the land of the free. It's right on my Facebook feed, all there for the world to read. And my heart starts to bleed, so
the wrong. There's still a refuge where we both belong, and wherever it is, we'll make it through. Even so, even now, even you, even so, even me, even you.
Each week, we hold time in our worship service for the sharing of significant joys and sorrows. If you have a personal joy or sorrow you would like to share, you are invited to come forward, place a stone in the water, speak your name into the microphone, and briefly share your joy or sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust.
Good morning. My name is Maureen O'Rourke, and my joy is that Zion Baptist Church on Lister Road behind Harris Teeger has a pod. And they're filling this pod with items for the hurricane victims in Louisiana. Shannon and I went over yesterday with blankets and water, and there was very little inside the pod. So, if you want to, if you're urged to, please give whatever you can. They need clothes for men, women, boys, girls, all kinds of items, batteries and frozen refrigerated goods they can't accept. Thank you very much.
Good morning, I'm Dave Salmon.
I'm Nancy Mayer.
The stones we placed this morning are for our nephew Felipe, his fiancee Rafaela, and their son Teo. Teo was born in July, and before he was born, everyone knew that he was going to require extraordinary medical treatment from the moment he was born. And he fought for his life for over 2 months. He worked hard with his doctors through numerous surgeries and incredible, extraordinary care, but on Thursday was the end, and Theo passed. So we dropped the stones in memory of Theo and to give strength to his parents, Felipe and Rafaela, as they move forward.
Jillian. I have 2 amazing joys to share today with everybody. The first is that our first overnight foster children stayed in our home, and my husband and I are so excited to be finally starting our foster parent journey after wanting to do it for so long. And we were really proud of our 4-year-old son and how he opened his home to them. My second amazing joy is that I have dreamed of publishing my poetry since the 6th grade, and I worked so hard on this project with artwork from my mom and my husband, and it's here. My poetry book is real, and it's here, and it's going to be for sale on Amazon on Friday, which means I am officially a published author. And one last thing, my sweet son is turning 5 this week. If you see Charlie running around in the courtyard, please wish him a happy birthday.
Hello, my name is Susan Heyman.
I'm Mark Filling.
Yes, and I have a joy to share, and that is that I just got out of the hospital a couple of days ago after having brain surgery for subdermal hematoma, and I just can't tell you how much better I feel. They did a really good job, and they took very good care of me, and I look forward to a full recovery. And so that's one of my joy. I have another small joy that's related to another time, and that is that my brother-in-law Tom is still getting along after having a very difficult time with COVID, and but he's out of the hospital, and I hope you will all hold him in your heart and wish him well. Thank you.
We're going to our Monday dance lesson too.
Good morning, I'm Jane Proven. This stone is for my friend Harriet Sherman, who passed away last week. Harriet is the mother of my son Christopher's best friend, Micah Sherman, from high school days, and she was a beloved middle school teacher in Chatham County before she retired. She had a recurrence of a breast cancer that she had had 28 years ago, and it was so advanced that she chose not to fight it and went into hospice and lived another 3 months under the good care of her husband, Wayne. So we hold them very close in our hearts and hope you will too.
My name is Judy Lechner, and Jay Johnson, who's a member of this congregation, gave me permission to tell you that, and to ask you to keep his son, who lives in Denver, in Colorado, in your hearts. He has advanced melanoma. Hopefully, he's getting treatment. But still, please keep him in your hearts.
Good morning, my name is Richard Edwards, and today I have a joy that my wife and I are celebrating our 23rd wedding anniversary. This is the first Sunday we've had an anniversary, like a Sunday anniversary in church, seems like in 23 years. Really happy to love you. It's been a rich, wonderful journey.
Hi, my name is Caroline Sherman. I placed a stone for my mother, Ann Sherman, and it's a stone of joy. Last time I was here, I shared with you all my family's concern about her increased dementia, and that we were waiting for a spot in assisted living. That came true. We've moved her. We feel incredibly grateful for the staff at the Orchard Assisted Living in Crosdale. She's gained 7 pounds, which says something to me. She's safe. It's going to be a while. She's still, apparently transitions are very, very confusing for people who have dementia. But thank you all, everybody who reached out to me and my family. Thanks so much.
My name is Frans Haken, and I have a really significant sorrow on account of nations not really doing the real thing for the climate conference in November. And I hope that they would listen to the petition of our joint monetary justice campaign that I'm co-directing with Bruce Nuts of the UN office. Thank you.
Hello, I am Tom Belote, and is the microphone working? Okay, great. I'm bringing a message from Valerie Vickers. Valerie Vickers wants to thank you for the love and the sympathy that you've shown on the passing of her mother, Lois Arlene Vickers, who died at age 94 on September 12th after a brief illness. She was in Topeka, and Valerie got to be with her at the end of her life. The family is going to gather for a celebration of Valerie's mom on October 2nd.
The last stone is for those joys and sorrows this morning that were unspoken, but that live in our hearts and are no less real. Let's take a moment to hold these joys and sorrows in our hearts. There will be a sung meditation, number 1023 in your teal hymnal, Building Bridges.
We'll start singing this together in unison twice through, and then we'll go into a round and see how it goes from there.
Good morning, everyone. It is a joy to be with you all this morning. For those of you who are fairly new here, I was an intern here a number of years ago. I think maybe 15 years ago, something like that. I was here when we redecorated the sanctuary, renovated the sanctuary, so that tells you how long it's been. I want to give a special thank you to Reverend Tom for inviting me to be with you this morning. I'm going to begin with a reading from a book called Last Best Hope by George Packer. It's the very end of his book. One of the January 6th rioters was a 58-year-old handyman and loner from rural Virginia named Doug Sweet. When he was 13, he visited the Capitol for the first time and he breathed the spirit of equality. I have a right to be here, he thought. This is America's building. My voice counts as good as everyone else's here. 45 years later, he entered the Capitol for the second time, now as an invader with a head full of conspiracy theories. Between 1975 and 2021, whatever tied Doug Sweet to democracy and reason snapped. In his delusion, he was convinced that his voice no longer mattered, that it wasn't as good as everyone else's. It had been stolen from him, and he had every right to barge in and take away the voices of 81 million Americans in order to get his own back. What do we do about Doug Sweet? Punish him for his actions? Keep an eye on him? Anticipate more violence and prevent it with tools the state already has? Expose, isolate, and discredit his views as much as possible to slow the spread, confine it to the sphere of private fantasy? Drive his champions out of public office. Never let the American people forget what he did. And then, what about the millions of sympathizers? We can't jail them all or deport them or destroy them in total war and then rebuild their communities while re-educating their children in democratic values. I'm tempted to say the heck with them. Ignore them as long as they don't break the law. Let's make America again without them. But we can't ignore them. They won't let us. So we have to look for those ideas, policies, and dreams that will make it possible to live together as equal Americans.
Unfortunately, Bill Rote is not feeling well today, so got woke up with a sore throat yesterday, and I'm going to take his place for this song. And if you catch on with the lyrics at the end, you're welcome to sing along. Now it's time. Now it's time for all good men to get together with one
Thank you. I miss the music here. Thank you so much. I wanted to begin this morning's message with that reading because when I read George Packer's book, it really resonated with me. It is it's a very non-judgmental, balanced approach to looking at what he feels is happening to our country right now. And it's been really close to the bone for me these past few weeks. I've been grappling with our fifth principle, the one that asks us to promote the right of conscience and to use a democratic process, not just within our congregations, but in society at large. In the past, that principle has always been kind of a no-brainer for me. I never really worried about it too much. I thought, if I vote, if I speak up, speak my mind when it's necessary, then democracy is going to work. And it's only been in the last few years that I've realized how fragile our democracy, our democratic systems are. What do I do about that? What do I do about the Doug Sweets that are among us? Packer writes in his book that we are a nation divided, but maybe not the way that we often think about our divisions. He says we're not really divided into liberal and conservative, red and blue. We're not even divided really into cultures based on our race, class, religion, or sexuality. He says what we are really divided into are four narratives about what we think America actually stands for. He says these four narratives have been with us for years, and through the generations, one narrative will take precedent over another, depending on what's happening out in the world. And Packer believes that each of these narratives has some value and also some destructive elements. So I'm going to just take you briefly through Packer's four narratives so you can understand where he's coming from. The four narratives that Packer talks about are free America, smart America, real America, and just America. Free Americans, he says, believe that there should be only two national goals. One, to have a strong military that can defend our interests, and the other is to be a champion for individual freedoms. These are the only two things free Americans believe America should be about. Think about the Reagan era. Think about low taxes, light regulation, low domestic spending, and having a high military presence. Smart America is the narrative of the meritocracy. When you think about smart America, think about Bill Clinton's neoliberalism, a series or a complex government policy structure that's been designed by experts and is designed to help those people get ahead who have the talents for such a thing. Smart Americans tend to be optimistic, they're pro-technology, and they're very comfortable with increased global interdependence. And then the third one is real America, which sees itself as the true backbone of the country. Real America is popular with white, Christian, rural, and small-town folks. It also includes a lot of people who tend to work with their hands, mechanics, electricians, landscapers, home health care workers, farmers. And then finally, there's Just America, who see our nation as primarily in terms of multiple systems of oppression that we need to root out. Just Americans can sometimes be cynical about the ability of the democratic process to solve our most significant problems, climate change and white supremacy, or white privilege to be among them. Now, if you're like me, you might find yourself shaking your head at some of these narratives and nodding your head at others. The fact is, though, that these divisions have been with us since the very beginning of our nation, and that whenever one of these narratives is not seen or heard or appreciated, it can often develop into protests and sometimes into violence. We all have a deep need, a deep human need to be heard. This is the backbone of what democracy means. It is a system of being heard, producing systems of being heard, because it's a deep human need. Being divided about what we think America is about is not new. It is what is new, though. This is not news to any of you, but I'm gonna say it anyway. What is new is the degree to which we have retreated from the really hard work of listening to people who have a different narrative than we have. And Packer's remedy for saving democracy is, it's deceptively simple. He says we just need to start listening to each other again. A simple fact, but I say deceptively because we all know that is not simple, right? Especially in our modern day, it makes it especially difficult. The ways in which we gain information makes it so easy to reinforce our own narrative. And especially, I think, during this pandemic, that tendency to listen to our own narrative has been exacerbated. Because who, at these vulnerable times, wants more challenges? Why not stay in our narrative bunkers in these challenging times? If we're going to heal our democracy, though, which I think our fifth principle calls us to do, we'll have to do more than just point fingers at one another. I don't condone what happened at the Capitol. I don't agree with many of the reasons why they were there, even the ones that didn't bring things to violence. But I do understand the anger of these folks, because the people I come from, my family, the people I grew up with, and the people that I trust most, quite honestly, come from that real American mentality, narrative, with a little bit of free America flavor as well. And I've watched their suffering, I've watched the disintegration of their lives over the last several decades, and I've watched Washington not seem to care. I've watched as the media doesn't seem to think that this is newsworthy. And I've watched as we've all stopped listening. So in a way, Doug Sweet had a point. He didn't have a voice anymore because we have stopped listening to a lot of what America is experiencing. So this morning I asked this question: what if we were to raise this issue of saving democracy to the level of activism? Develop what Packer calls an activism of cohesion. Activists focused on reaching out to people with different narratives. Activists focused on bringing down the temperature of our politics by listening to people, listening to the wisdom of different narratives from ours. An activism of cohesion. This is not easy work, because first of all, no matter what narrative you might identify with, or narratives, we need to take a close look at the underbelly of that particular narrative, and that's always a difficult thing to do. The free America of the Reagan-Bush years pretty much destroyed what we knew as the middle class. Smart America's meritocracy has a certain disdain for people who haven't really made it the way we think they should. Just America is often a little bit too cynical and gives us very little to be proud of as Americans, and there is a lot to be proud of in this country. Real America has a really hard time offering full equality to non-whites, non-Christians, non-heterosexuals. An activism of cohesion would require that we purposely begin spending time with people who have a different narrative. Maybe you begin with your family. As a spiritual director, I'm often saddened by listening to people say they can no longer talk to family members who have a different political outlook than they do. But if we can't talk to people who are closest to us about the things that matter most to us, things like racism, sexism, abortion, faith, then how can we expect to heal a nation? Or maybe we begin with the communities we live in. Study after study has shown that when you have antagonistic groups, they begin to lose one another's, they tend to lose their mutual hostility, and they begin to trust each other when they're working on a common project. When I was a minister in Hillsborough, one of my favorite things to do was in the line of community organizing, where I could get out of my you narrative and work alongside people who had a very different political and cultural view than I did. So I encourage you to think about where you could place yourself to learn to care more deeply about people who have a different narrative than yours. And then finally, we have to be intentional about how we engage when we do this activism of cohesion. We have to practice open-heartedness. And open-heartedness is one of those terms that we talk about a lot, but we don't really talk about what it means. So let me tell you what I mean by open-heartedness. The yogis teach us that there are 7 energy centers through our body, chakras, and that the most beautiful and powerful energy center or chakra is our heart chakra, our 4th chakra. The chakras focus and distribute and allow the flow of energy, and this energy is known by many names. It's called Shakti, by the yogis. It's called Qi by Chinese medicine practitioners. It's called Spirit by Judeo-Christians. This heart energy is our source of love and inspiration and positive regard for others. It's available to all of us all the time, but we tend to block it to protect ourselves because it can be very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable space. If your mind can't quite wrap around this idea of the chakras, I want you to use your imagination for just a moment and imagine, give yourself an image of loving someone, trusting them, bringing your walls down around them, and imagine how that feels. That is what I mean by open-heartedness. That kind of deep breath, open space feeling. And now imagine that that same person has said something hurtful. And think about how that feels. For most people, that brings a tightness in your chest, and maybe your shoulders get a little bit tense. That's what it feels to be close-hearted. You are putting a shield around your heart energy to protect you. Maybe you're even wondering if you love this person after all, with this feeling around you. It's so uncomfortable that we try to avoid people that make us feel that way, which is normal, and in many respects it's healthy, but not always. Because in most religious traditions, spiritual practices are actually meant to help you practice keeping that heart center, that heart energy open, regardless of attack. And now imagine, again, that your heart closes and energy gets stuck and it acts as kind of a spiritual plaque around your heart that makes it harder to open and close that heart energy. Most of that plaquey, sticky stuff that's around our heart is related to our ego. When our ego is attacked, because of the way we look, the way we act, the way we think, the ideas that we have, it helps to close our hearts. We put up our shields. And when we put up our shields to our hearts, we tend to start using our minds to defend ourselves, to get out of this nasty feeling. We call in all that knowledge that we've worked so hard to accumulate just for a moment such as this. You might even tell the person how you really feel about them. And now because somebody has gotten your goat, you've lost the ability to be a cohesion activist. I found that a lot of my heart center plaque is actually due to my education. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but it's true because I have worked so hard and spent, well, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars moving from the Real America fold to the Smart America / Just America fold. And so it makes me very defensive when I hear people who don't agree with me because I know, I have studied this. I know what the right answers are, right? Why wouldn't I want to use that? There are times when it's appropriate to use that. But as a cohesion activist, you are focusing on connection, not correction. So as a cohesion activist, always watch your tendency to protect and defend yourself. Get familiar with your heart's soft spots. And when they're hit, which they often will be, when they're hit, relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath. Relax and release. People always want to get your goat. Let them have your goat. It's just a goat. And then also, finally, remember that the personal narrative, telling stories, is the natural, ancient vehicle of human connection. Stories are healing ways to communicate, whereas facts and figures tend to separate us. So whenever you find yourself with your heart closing and you wanting to go to your head, it helps to turn the conversation to personal stories about why you feel as you do. Connect with that person by saying something like, you know, I used to feel that way, if that's true. But then this happened to me, and it made me feel this way. Share your story that changed or challenged you. And as you begin this work, this new kind of activism that might help to save our democracy, notice who you feel drawn to and where you feel at ease, and make sure you are spending some time there, because we all need a comfortable home base. This is important for any kind of activism. Always have a strong home base with you. And then notice who challenges you, who makes the edges of your ideas grow, and spend some time there as well. Because life can become stagnant when a good day means only that no one has gotten your goat. Stay open-hearted. Tell your story. And finally, remember that God loves everyone madly, including the Doug Sweets among us. Amen and blessed be. I invite us now to sing our closing hymn, which, since I don't have my order of service with me here, I don't remember the number. It is 1017 in your teal hymnal, Building on Your Way. Please stand in body or spirit as we sing this together.
Yeah.
Please join me in saying the extinguishing the chalice words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth,
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And in singing Shalom, we have the option of holding our neighbor's hands or putting your hands over your heart. Shalom.